Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. As Mike's Talks and Thoughts here, back again with another video for you guys, and today we are going to be doing a new series here on the channel, TV series reviews here. Now with these TV series reviews here, these are going to be videos that any and all of you can watch. I will be going into a little bit of a synopsis here for people who have not seen the series, and then give a little bit of a spoiler warning so that you guys can, watch the synopsis, see if you're interested, and then see the closing thoughts, and again, see if you're interested in watching, then you can come back to this video. And also for people who have seen the entire show, we will spoil away here, and we will talk about what we love about the show, some things we can improve, and just giving our overall thoughts on a series here. Another thing that I want to mention here before we get started is going to be the tiers I'm going to be using to rank these series by. So I have the GOAT tier. These are going to be like some of the best of all time, my absolute favorites. Then I have Elite tier. These are absolutely phenomenal shows, definitely still worth checking out. We have the Great tier here. These are, great shows. They have their flaws, but they're still really great. Then we have the Good tier. They're solid enough, but they're not absolutely phenomenal or really, really great. And then we have the Okay tier, which is just kind of meh. They're all right. And then we have the Bad tier, which is just stay clear from that. Definitely not worth your time and just not worth watching. I also am going to go and give one recommendation as well in my closing thoughts for a show that, if you like the show that I'm reviewing, a show that you should watch in that place here. So for example, here we have Breaking Bad. At the end, I will be giving an example of a show that you should watch if you like Breaking Bad. Hopefully that opens up some avenues and some direction for you guys moving forward and what you want to watch, and what I think is very similar. If you like one show, you'll probably like another show. So yeah, here, this is the first of the series here, and it is going to be Breaking Bad, my favorite television show of all time here. First here for the Breaking Bad review, let's go into a little bit of a quick synopsis for the series. Breaking Bad was created by Vince Gilligan. The show debuted in 2008 and ended in 2013 with 62 total episodes. The story of Breaking Bad follows a chemistry teacher named Walter White who has terminal cancer. And in learning that he has terminal cancer, he's looking a way to provide for his family when he's gone. And in doing so, he ends up cooking crystal meth here with his partner and former student Jesse Pinkman here. This series follows a whole bunch of twists and turns. You see a lot of, villains, cartel members, meth heads, and overall the stakes of the series get higher and higher and higher as you go along. So yeah, that's a little bit of a quick synopsis here on Breaking Bad. So from here on out is going to be spoiler warnings here. So if you have not seen it, definitely skip. I will put a timestamp right here. You skip to that timestamp and go ahead. But if you have seen all of Breaking Bad, let's go ahead and talk about the great show that it is. So Breaking Bad has a ton of positives going for it. It is one of the highest rated shows on IMDb with a 9.5 out of 10, which is so well deserved. I think that every season of this show just, increases and the stakes get higher and higher. A lot of people would say that the seasons get better and better. I personally like season 4 and season 5 pretty much on equal levels, but I think I put season 4 ahead just because of the Gus and Walter White face-off. This story has an amazing plot. It hits every note that you want in a great plot here. And it has really great storytelling here. Not a lot of plot holes at all. They're able to tell a clear and linear story here that flows almost perfectly. Another thing that they do really well is just amazing cinematography. Like I said, the writing on this show and the plot is super amazing, but also the cinematography and the setting. Albuquerque, New Mexico, not a setting that you see a lot, and Breaking Bad just does it so well here. Another thing about this show that I absolutely just so much enjoy is the great anti-hero. If you're a big fan of anti-hero stories like myself, this is just a show right up your alley. It follows the complexity and change of Walter White from this low down on his luck chemistry teacher who goes to a drug meth kingpin and it's one of the most crazy and incredible journeys you will ever see. It has some of the best character development in the entire show. The way that these characters just evolve and transition over time, it's like something that you haven't seen in a show in many years. The show also has a lot of great villains here. As you follow Walter White as the lead role here, you get to see his interactions with Hank here. Hank, his brother-in-law, who is with the DEA, and Walter is a meth cook here, and basically has to try and avoid Hank here at all costs, try not to get caught. He plays this little cat and mouse game, and then he has to deal with villains as well, such as Gustavo Fring. Gustavo Fring, one of the best TV villains here, has a great arc here with Walter White, recruiting him to cook for him, and then being able to, turn the tables around. Him and Walter having a battle of who's going to kill which one first. This show, from top to bottom as well, has some of the best acting scenes. There's so much powerful scenes, some of the best actors of all time. Bryan Cranston, Aaron Paul do such a great job giving strong performances in this show. It really feels like, they are giving Emmy-winning performances each and every time they step foot on screen. I love the families as well in this. You got the White family, you got the Schrader family, you got even Jesse and his family, and then my ultimate favorite here, the Salamanca family. The Salamanca family here, you have characters like Hector, who is a lot of comedic relief. You have Tuco, who's a psychopath here. And you have the Salamanca twins here, Marco and Lionel, who are just silent, cold-blooded killers. They are one of the most menacing families of all time here in the Breaking Bad universe. Another thing that I just absolutely love about Breaking Bad, and giving my thoughts here on it, has such amazing action scenes as well. A lot of badass scenes as well. You see a lot of great shootout scenes and just badass moments, especially from the character of Mike. I think Mike is my favorite character on the show, and he just does such a great job bringing each and every scene. He's always in a badass shootout, or he's having to clean up messes here. It's really great to see. The show from start to finish is just so endlessly rewatchable as well. That's one thing that I love in a lot of this show, is these scenes, you can go back and look upon them, and they're so great to rewatch, and seeing how the transition, going back on a second and third rewatch and picking up on stuff that you missed. They do a lot of great foreshadowing in the show, and they also do a lot of great job in color symbolism as well, with Walter wearing lighter clothes and then eventually moving into darker clothes as he becomes more of a monster here. You see characters like Jesse associated with the color red, Gus is associated with yellow, Hank with orange, Marie with purple, Skylar with blue, and the list just goes on and on. And all these colors have a little bit of symbolism and connect with the character, which is really great to see. And if you look on the color wheel, how a lot of the characters who are opposite on the color wheel are opposites in the show. It just do a great job of using each and every aspect, not just the writing, but also just the scenery, like I mentioned, the cinematography, and being able to dress the characters up in these outfits that symbolize what their character is. This show also does such a great job in origin storytelling. It doesn't go too crazy into the origin storytelling. That's what the prequel show does here, but I think they have a lot of great background stories and being able to see how the past affects them for the future. Like I said, how each season gets better and better. Season 1, we start off with Walt and, kind of his introduction to the criminal world with Jesse Pinkman here as they meet a psycho named Tuco Salamanca, who they try and do business with, who kind of goes all off the rails and ape shit on them. And we get one of the best episodes of the series in Grilled here, where Tuco faces off with Jesse and Walter here, and we get to see how Hank gets involved in this story as well. Then later on in season 2, you get the introduction of Saul here, as their business continues to grow and grow, and Walt and Jesse are able to produce more products in the RV. They need a lawyer here, and they turn to Saul Goodman. But they realize that they need to be able to move their product more efficiently here, and that's where Gustavo Fring comes involved because of Saul's connections here. And we get to see, Walter's interaction with Gus, and we also get to see Walter's interactions with Skylar. Skylar is on the fence of everything that he's doing. She doesn't really know at first what's going on, but you know she's kind of piecing some of the pieces together, and by the time season 3 rolls around, she's kind of got an idea, but she also kind of goes off the rails on her own. And then season 3, you also get introduced to some new characters like Gale, who helps out in the lab, and you see how that foreshadows into later scenes in the season. You also get to see more of the criminal operation with Gus and his underlings with Victor, and you get to learn about Tomas as well in this season. This is also the season where we are introduced to the Salamanca cousins. I mentioned how Marco and Leah now are cold-blooded killers, and they just do such a good job here. They steal the scene every time. They are badasses, and we get to see how Gustavo sees that they're coming here and they want revenge on Walter for what happened with Tuco, like I mentioned earlier, but then Gus redirects them over to Hank Schrader here because he's the one who ended up killing Tuco to begin with. And we get the great scene from the episode 1 minute where Hank with no gun is able to fight off 2 of the craziest and cold-blooded killers out there. You know, really makes Hank stand out as a badass, and really gives him a lot of great development with his characters. We get to see him kind of fighting back from his injuries. Season 4 is all about the Gus and Walter face-off here. And, you know, Walter and Gus now have so much tension with each other. Season 4 really just builds upon that, you know, back and forth, each little play-by-play. You know, Walter tries to set up Jesse here to try and take out Gus because Gus and Walter, you know, aren't really having much interaction here, as Walter, you know, is trying to take over what Gus has. And, you know, and this is also when the cartel starts getting involved as well. You know, Jesse from Gale's death. I mentioned Gale in season 3. In the season 3 finale, we see Jesse killing Gale here, and it's just insane. And then we get to see how that affects him moving into season 4. And this just back and forth little game until Walt is able to best him with Hector here. We know that Hector and Gus are enemies here, and we also get to see Gus here with the cartel and him taking out the cartel here, as you know, he feels that Jesse is able to provide the cook that he needs, and it's just a great season here. And then we get to season 5 here, where, you know, everything comes to head with Hank. You know, season 4 was the season between Gus and Walter, but season 5 really focuses a lot on Hank. You know, we get to see at the end of season 5, part 1 here, how Hank is able to figure out and put the pieces together through clues from other scenes we've seen earlier in the series. We also get to see new groups. We get to see Todd and his uncle and his group here taking care of the mess with Mike's men here after Gustavo's death at the hands of Walter's bomb. We get to see how Walter is trying to take these men out who can leak information. We get introduced to, like I said, Todd, and we also get introduced to Lydia as well, who has connections through Gus. And we see how Mike is just so not trusting of Walter and Jesse here. You know, how they have to clean up a lot of the evidence that happened. And, you know, Mike says that we had a good thing with Frang. But then Walter, you know, turns on Mike, and, you know, he has to take him out because he is someone who just won't give up the names for the list and is becoming a problem. And, you know, seeing Mike's death was one of the saddest things. And as we move closer and closer here, as they do more and more cooks, you know, Hank starts, you know, getting involved more and more into the story. And as Hank is able to sort of get a work on Jesse here, and Jesse and Hank start kind of working together to take out Walt here, we are able to, you know, get this all come to a head at Ozymandias here. One of the best episodes of TV ever put together. Ozymandias was such a great episode. It's a 10 out of 10 on IMDb for a reason. It has everything. It's one of the greatest tragedy stories of all time. We get to see the crazy death scene of Hank here. Hank and Gomez, as Walter, you know, is getting his rights read by Hank, as they think they finally got him out in the desert where he is storing all of his money. Walter makes a call to Jack and his crew, thinking it's just Jesse, but Hank is in reality the one going after him. And we were able to see the shootout between Jack's men and Hank, and then ultimately Jack killing Hank. And, you know, Walt is just completely traumatized by this. They take most of Walt's money, and, you know, Walt, after all this stuff that's going on, he has to go into hiding. He contacts Ed, and, you know, Saul is also involved in the story as well at this point. He's someone who is having trouble with Jesse, and it's really great to see how their stories intertwine. And Saul eventually has to go into hiding here. We see Hugh and QB still doing work for Saul here, and Walter, of course, after coming home with the money, tries to take his family and relocate his family as well with him, but they just don't budge. Walter Jr. and Skylar are able to stand their ground against him, and it's just so crazy to see the acting in that episode is just absolutely phenomenal. Everything comes to a head at that episode, and then we build towards the conclusion where Walt is having a new identity, but Jack and his men are still free, and we get to see how in Ozymandias as well, Walt sells out Jesse to Jack and his men to cook for them. So Walt, living in New Hampshire at this point, has to come back, and he buys this insane gun here from Lawson, one of the gun dealers that we see in the series, and rigs it up to this truck here, and is able to find Jack and his men. And he basically talks about how they were supposed to kill Jesse, as that's why he called them. And then he sees Jesse there, Walt and Jesse, and Walt falls on top of him as the freaking machine gun goes crazy, and Walt gets his revenge on all of the men. It's so satisfying to see, and we get to see how Jesse and Walt finally have one last little conversation here, and Walt eventually is wounded by his own machine gun, and he's able to go into the meth lab, and Walt lives where he dies and dies where he lives, a meth lab. And it's really great to see. Previously, before the shooting, he talks with Skylar, and he's like, I did it for me, all the stuff. Instead of, what we thought of at the beginning where he was doing this for his family, he did it for himself. And it was just crazy to see how the change of Walter White, one of the most complex and dynamic characters of all time. And we get to see how he admits he was alive when he was cooking. It was something he was really good at, and he made it great money with it. So I've praised this show so much, and I've talked about everything that I love about it and why it's so great and why I think it's one of the best television shows of all time and peak TV for me. But one thing I have to mention that is really a negative, not a lot of negatives in this show, but I wish that the female characters were a little bit stronger in Breaking Bad. That's like the one big gripe I had about this show, is there wasn't that many strong female characters. That's like my biggest gripe here for the show. But ultimately, man, Breaking Bad is one of the most badass shows ever put to TV here. It is just absolutely incredible here. Like I said, I just kind of gave a whole recap along with stuff that I really like about the show, and it's just really amazing. One of the best shows ever made. The writing, the cinematography, all just play so well together, and they mix so perfectly. But now here, moving into my closing thoughts here. Like I mentioned, all of the great things about Breaking Bad. But let's do a recommendation here for Breaking Bad. So if you like Breaking Bad, the one show that I gotta recommend here is going to be Better Call Saul. If you have not seen Better Call Saul yet, this is a prequel to Breaking Bad here, and it really shows a lot of the great origin storytelling like I mentioned in Breaking Bad. This has all that you want in that. It has a lot of the similar writing styles here. I really think if you like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul is right up your alley. And now here, let's get into the rating for Breaking Bad. So, of course, I mentioned my scale earlier. I have 6 different tiers: the GOAT tier, Elite tier, Great tier, Good tier, Okay, and Bad tier. And for Breaking Bad here, I mentioned at the start of the video, it is my favorite show of all time. This show easily goes into the GOAT tier. GOAT tier status for Breaking Bad is absolutely incredible. One of the best shows ever made, like I mentioned, and definitely one that I think any fan of TV should check out. So yeah, that's going to do it here for the Breaking Bad review. I'll have a lot more reviews coming in the future here. Let me know if you guys like this format, and definitely let me know if you think there's anything I can improve upon or what you guys want to see. Like I said, this is my first one of these, so definitely leave feedback down in the comment section below, and also considering hitting the like button and the subscribe button. So yeah, take care everyone, and peace out.